Industry?
Yes.
No. Talk about those things on second Sundays. You wonder, because Christ, who they say was the Son of God, came on earth and they documented him as performing how many miracles? Wasn't something like 7 miracles? Holy. Well, one of them was turning water into wine. And who knows, he might have a little moringa, he might have some cashew, he might have some ganja, we don't know, Remember, as Garveyites, we look for the science and the fullness behind things. Because not saying that they're not miracles, but right now if you were to go back in time and show a man a television in the 14th century, he's going to tell you it's magic. But that there is a science behind it. There's a physics and a electronics and so forth and so forth. And so it is with many miracles throughout history, you can understand. I had a teacher once who turned to the class and said, what I've always considered a very profound statement, because up to that point in my life, I had never considered it that way. But he turned to my class one day and said, when they said Jesus was walking on water, have you ever considered that he might have been surfing? And it completely changed my life after that. I'm not saying we doubt, it doesn't diminish our belief in our Creator. But really, if you see a man surfing for the first time and you've never seen somebody surf before, it wouldn't look like the man walking on water to you. Huh? So, congratulations to Princess and her winemaking, following in the footsteps of great people. Delhi? All right, let me introduce our guest speaker for today. He is with the Department of Philosophy at the University of the West Indies, somebody who was born in Nigeria, studied in Nigeria, and came to share his wealth of knowledge with the students of the University of the West Indies. We've invited him here today just to share his own experience being a continental African living within the African diaspora for so many years. He's also very involved with the Pan-African movement at UE. He's hosted a number of conference, film festivals, exposing African film to the diaspora. Last year he had the Minister of Tourism from Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, was here with us. And the UNIA really wants to make it our mission to reach out to our brothers and sisters who come to our shores. Just on Friday, we had a little reception for members of the Jamaican diaspora in Costa Rica who are visiting the island, some of them for the first time in 3 generations since their parents moved to Latin America in as early as 1872. And this is one of the things that made the Garvey movement strong. Garvey's ability to appeal not just to the Africans in the West Indies and in America, but also across the continent of Africa. It is written into our construct, into our organizational DNA. We are not a Caribbean movement. We are not an American movement. We are a universal African movement. And I only say that for those of you who don't understand the science behind the word Negro. So without further delay, please give a round of applause to Dr. Tunde Bawjii, our Nigerian professor in Jamaica from the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Good evening at the high seats. When I just came back from Kenya Monday morning, and sometime during the week I received a call requesting that I present myself here this evening, and that I must comment on my experience in Jamaica. Usually, many times when I've been invited in the past, I've visited here many times. But to be here with you in the evening like this, celebrating life, celebrating the experiences that I've had, celebrating the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, has not happened. So when I received the call, I said, there's nothing I can do, I have to be here. And I just asked, what exactly am I expected to do? And I was given free latitude to do whatever I like, talking about my coming to Jamaica and my experience since I've been here. In the 70s, while I was an undergraduate in Nigeria, I had a complete collection of Bob Marley's music, Peter Tosh, Bunny Wheeler, and all the reggae music. You had it's not CDs, it's those vinyl records that we had in those days. So I've always been very conscious that I do have brothers and sisters on the other side of the Atlantic. There was a lot of ignorance with regard to global Africa, because it is not taught in the schools. The only thing we were taught was that there was a transatlantic slave trade, and we were not even taught about the trans-Sahara slave trade. So many people didn't know about the Arabian slave trade. But some of us were well informed, especially with the contribution of Nigeria, Jamaica, and all those countries that formed the non-aligned movement, which led to the liberation of the rest of Africa, Rhodesia, Namibia, including South Africa in the early 90s. So I was always conscious of that. And when I had the opportunity of going for sabbatical, I told myself, I've read so much about Jamaica, I've heard so much about, the diaspora. Let me try and see if I could get to the University of the West Indies. It was just a fortunate coincidence that the Faculty of Arts, as it used to be then, had a fellowship which was a Rhodes Visiting Fellowship. And at that time, they had the idea of bringing someone to come and help to develop an African component to the curriculum. And that happened to be me. So I came on Heroes Day, that was in October 1991, in the evening to Jamaica. And it happens that because it was Heroes Day, virtually everywhere was on holiday. So there was nobody to meet me at the airport. But then I called the university, and one way or the other, they said, okay, come to what used to be senior common room then. It has now become the visitors lodge. I got there, they said there was no room for me, and then they sent me to Hotel Four Seasons. When they said Four Seasons, I was scared, because I thought that Jamaica was a tropical country. So if they now have Four Seasons, and this was October, how am I going to survive winter when, I wasn't prepared for winter? I didn't know that Jamaicans are very humorous people. They just like to keep the vestiges of, being close to the temperate regions. So that's, in short, was how I came here. And since I've been here, I have developed courses in African philosophy. And recently we were able to force through a new course in Caribbean philosophy. You will never believe it. The Caribbean philosophy course was only taught for the first time this year. And it faced a lot of resistance. And just this week, I had one of the most phenomenal Jamaicans that ever lived visited Jamaica, Louis Gordon. I don't know how many of you know him. Is Louis Gordon, Louis Ricardo Gordon. He currently holds 3 professorships at the same time. I don't know of any other person who does that. You know, how did we get to meet each other? In 1994, I hosted the first conference, you know, when I became the founding president of International Society for African Philosophy and Studies. And I hosted the conference here at Mona. And he was one of the first people to attend. And since then, we became friends. But what is significant about Louis Gordon is that he grew up in Jamaica, migrated at a very tender age, and did all his studies in the US. However, Louis is one who has a very kind, most generous spirit, both in terms of his time, in terms of his resources, and in terms of his intellect. And consequently, we were quite very close. So when he came, you know, for one reason or the other, he decided he wasn't going to take American passport. So he needed to renew his passport, and I said, well, fortunately, the director at PICA was my former student, you know, Mrs. Jennifer McDonald. So I called and we arranged, you know, and he went there. But on Tuesday evening, I asked him to speak to my class on Caribbean philosophy, and he came, and he had a very good time. Now, the point I'm making is that having been in Jamaica, it has been a wonderful experience. And I tell everybody that of all the Caribbean countries you could have, Jamaica is about the most hospitable. Once you know your bounds.
Explain, please. Come on.
Don't draw my tongue. You see, well, my father was a traveler. He was a, you know, carpenter, making furniture, building, and all that. And he went all over the Western region. And one of the lessons that he taught us was that you can be anywhere, but you have to know your boundary. You must know that you are a foreigner, regardless of how long you have been there, because what an indigene, a local person sees with eyes closed, the visitor cannot see with eyes wide open. And therefore, you know, I took that very well, and it has served me. So what I'm trying to get at is this. Somewhere, I think in 1995, after the conference that we hosted, I have brought intellectuals like Ben Jokanan, Ali Masrui, who passed recently, Ivan Van Satima, you know, and numerous others to speak at the UWI. And N1 was usually the venue. And whenever I brought them, the place was jam-packed because of the reputation and because of what they have done. Louis Gordon is in that category, if not better. This is someone who published, I think, about 5 books in about 3 years and about 50 journal articles. I mean, you know, I don't consider myself in that category. He's phenomenal. And when I say he holds 2 professorships, Jamaicans don't recognize the talent that this country has produced. Simply because, you know, we are always busy trying to run each other down. And in the process, we diminish each other until somebody recognizes the person outside. This guy holds a professorship in France, in Toulouse. He is the current Nelson Mandela Professor in South Africa, and is also the professor of Africana Studies, Philosophy, Afro-Judaic Studies, and probably something else at the University of Connecticut. So when I say that Jamaica has produced phenomenal individuals, it is incredible. So let me come to my humble self now. been in Jamaica for 24 years is not a long time.